Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. Before we deep dive about our product, I would like to tell about our company and about myself first. So, my name is Zohaib Ahmed, and I'm from CyberDisti Middle East, working as a pre-sales consultant within CyberDisti. And CyberDisti, actually, we are a value-added distributor for cybersecurity solutions covering all your endpoints, EDR, EPP, email security, firewall, whatever you name it. We are having all of those, products in our portfolio. So one of our core focus portfolio we are focusing today is Exeon. So I would like to hand over to Luca and Anne to take over the session. And whatever questions if you guys are having, so you can put in the chat box where after the presentation, I'll be reading out one by one questions individually, and Luca and Anne are over here to, answer all of them. So please feel free to ask any questions, and any doubts are there, please feel free to put in the chat box. So yeah, I would like to hand over to Luca and Anne for the presentation.
So hi, thanks a lot for introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Luca Forciolini. I'm the head of channel at Exeon, and I'm in the same team as Sandra, which is located in Dubai, and is the local contact person for you and when it comes to Exeon. Today, we have the great chance, really happy that we can present you our newest product, Exeon UEBA. In the next couple of minutes, we are going to explain why we developed this product, what kind of security challenges we address within companies. And together with me, it's Anne. Maybe Anne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Introduce myself. Thank you, Luca. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Anne Murakaru. I am a training engineer here at Exeon Analytics, and I'm going to be leading you through the technical discussion on how Exeon UEBA works and why it is efficient in the modern SOC as well as in the security landscape. Over to you, Luca.
Yeah, so Anne and I would like really to take you to this journey today when it comes down Exeon UEBA, how we can help companies to decrease their cyber risk and improve their cyber resilience. But before we start with presenting what we are offering, we have prepared one slide concerning housekeeping. So as you already noted, we are recording this session, and our distributor, CyberDisti, will share this recording with you afterwards. Also, the shown slides, we will hand over to CyberDisti, and you will receive them. So I've already mentioned, we have a chat within this webinar tool. Please use it at the end of the session. We will take time to answer your questions. And I mentioned my colleague Sandra is the local contact person for you. So after this webinar, if you still have questions or you want to know more about Exeon, please contact CyberDisti or my colleague Sandra. And I would say, let's start with the topic. Why we decided to introduce Exeon UEBA. The thing is today, it still takes too long that companies discover that somebody entered into their landscape. Now, if you see the figures on the screen, some of those attack vectors are really hard to detect. If you look, supply chain compromise means attackers are using existing connection from suppliers to customers to enter into the landscape. Malicious insider, really hard to detect because they have legitimate access to the system landscape of the company. Compromised credential, very hard to spot out, because this is a normal legitimate users. And this is really hard to detect with standard security tools. Very important there is behavior analytics, because if an access is legitimate, how you can find out that is misused? Only by starting to do behavior analysis. Behavior analysis gives you the help to find changes in the behavior of those access, which indicates that you already have an intruder in your landscape. This is one pretty hard, or one of the trends why this number, that it still takes too long to understand that an attacker already infiltrated your landscape. The other thing, the trend, what we see is that more and more a part of the infrastructure of a company is being outsourced. Means SaaS application. You give really sometimes you have the crown jewelries in a SaaS application. You don't control the infrastructure of this SaaS application as company, but you're responsible for the data within. How you can find out, and this is like the compromised credential topic, how you can find out that somebody is in your application which shouldn't be there. Or what we even see is this company outsource infrastructure as a service, SD-WAN, this kind of topic. And this is really hard to detect. And this is the reason why we decided to introduce a new product, which is called Exeon UEBA. And Anne is going to present you in the next couple of slides.
So I would like to start off by highlighting why user and entity behavioral analytics is actually needed within the security landscape and within the security operations center. So first, I'd like to take a step back and look at how the security landscape has evolved over time. Now, you'll agree with me that traditionally, security is focused on identifying what is known to be malicious. For example, malicious signatures, for example, blacklisted IP addresses, or even policy rule violations. And these are still very important components of an investigation. They do play a key role in protecting customer environments. However, as the landscape continues to change, the attacker's behavior also changes with this. Now, they don't behave anymore like external intruders. Instead, they work to steal credentials. They move using tools that are legitimate tools inside the organizations. And they move slowly, they move deliberately, taking a lot of time and blending into normal activity. Now, as a result of this, one of the biggest risks that we face today is the activity that appears legitimate on the surface, but upon investigation, it actually has malicious intent, as Luca has just mentioned. And that is where user, entity, and behavioral analytics comes into play. So now, what has Exeon built, and what value do we offer in the modern cybersecurity landscape? Now, in the next slide, I would like to highlight how we are solving the challenge of the modern SOC. And the first point is the ability to see everything. Now, you'll agree with me that it is important to have a solution within your ecosystem that can see everything across your users, across your entities, for example, different devices, as well as across your applications. Now, there's this popular statement which goes by, you cannot protect what you cannot see. And I find it very true, because without that full visibility, then critical context is actually lost during investigation. Now, second is the real-time high-fidelity alerting. Now, from an alerting perspective, reliability matters, especially when we're looking at investigations using massive data volumes or investigations at massive scale. Now, security teams will not afford, especially in this day and age, to have this alert noise as well as missing relevant signals. And that's why it is important to have an effective UEBA solution, a UEBA solution that relies on expert-built use cases, that has been designed using real-world attack knowledge, using the kind of techniques that adversaries would use in production environments in order to have high fidelity alerting, in order to reduce the noise. Now, in addition to this is detection of suspicious behavior. Now, this points again to the UEBA behavioral learning, which allows organizations to detect suspicious activity. Now, these suspicious activities often deviate from what is normal. Now, how do we do this? We extend our detections with out-of-the-box use cases, as well as custom use cases using Sigma rules to meet those specific customer needs. Now, finally, we all know that data ownership as well as privacy are non-negotiable. And that's why Exeon UEBA can be deployed in the cloud. It can be deployed on premises, which allows organizations to maintain as well as retain their data sovereignty. Now, in addition to this, we have a privacy layer which protects the customer from exposing personally identifiable information. So we encrypt the customer PII data before we run analytics on it. The combination of what you see currently on the screen, that is visibility, reliable detection at scale, suspicious behavior detection, as well as data sovereignty, is what makes Exeon UEBA effective in today's security landscape. Now, next, I would like to highlight how Exeon envisions the future security operations center. And I'd like you to follow me from the left going towards the right. And on the left, we have the traditional SOC, where typically all the logs from the customer environment, from the devices, from the applications, from any custom business applications that they have built are directly forwarded into their CM solution. Now, inside this CM solution, you have teams working behind it to build as well as maintain detection use cases. Now, if you've done this before, you'll agree that this requires significant effort. It requires significant investment in resources. And as the data volume grows, so does the cost, which creates a really huge issue for a lot of our customers today. So what approach are we using as Exeon? So in Exeon, we do have two products in our product portfolio. We have an NDR product and we have Exeon UEBA, which is our topic of discussion today. Now, for the NDR product, all the network logs from your firewalls, from your routers, from your switches, and even additional logs within your network are ingested into this detection and response solution. They are analyzed and only the relevant alerts are then forwarded to the CM solution. Now, on the flip side, we have application logs. Now, these application logs are sent to Exeon UEBA, where we do have the built-in detection use cases, which work to identify anomalies. And again, they forward these high-quality alerts to the CM solution. So instead of sending everything to the CM solution, as you can see on the left-hand side, we have our expert systems sitting in between your log sources and your response infrastructure, this being your CM and your source solutions, so as to filter, so as to analyze and to enrich the data in order to reduce the number of alerts and to make the investigation faster, more accurate, and even more cost effective. So that is how Exeon envisions the future SOC, a smarter detection architecture. Now, I know the next question that you might have for me is, hey, Anne, so you've told us this really flowery things about Exeon NDR as well as Exeon UEBA sitting in between the log sources and the CM solution, but how does it actually work? Now, in this next section, I'm going to explore exactly that. And I'd like to start off by discussing how Exeon UEBA will turn this log data into behavioral insights. Now, again, I would like you to follow me from the left-hand side going towards the right. And here we'll start with the first step. The first step is the log ingestion. Everything will start with the data that you currently have within your systems. This data might be coming from multiple sources, from your users, from your SaaS application, custom application, or even API. Now, Exeon UEBA can ingest as well as understand all these different logs, and we have a high entity coverage, meaning that we don't rely on only one source log, one log source, but multiple log sources. Now, the second step is the log collection and the transformation. Now, we do have a log collection framework which ingests these raw streams and converts them into a standardized data model. Now, along the way, our systems will deduplicate, they will compress the data, so the detection will stay reliable even as the organization continues to have high data volumes. Now, at the same time, I did mention that we have a built-in privacy layer whose main purpose is to encrypt the personally identifiable information such as usernames, IDs, so analytics can only operate on protected data, which again will match on the data sovereignty, will ensure that this is present for the customers. Now, after the log collection and the transformation, we have the detection engine as well as the data lake. Now, the data is then processed in real time because we are using the stream-based analytics. Then the prepared events will all flow into our detection engine where we have multiple use cases running. We have multiple, identification of different patterns. We have processing of this different data in streams rather than in batches. And in this engine, we are detecting the behavioral anomalies. We're looking at escalation patterns in real time. Now, at the same time, a copy of that data is indexed in our data lake, and that is open search, which our different security analysts as well as your analysts can have access into in order to investigate further, to conduct threat hunting activities, and even auditing if need be. Now, the last step is the visualization and the response. Now, we do have an intuitive user interface where all the detections are surfaced as different use cases. Now, we combine multiple use cases. We have the built-in use cases, which run out of the box. We have behavioral use cases. We have custom rules. We have some patterns. And if there is an alert, these are exposed using the graphical user interface or can even be sent to the customer's existing response infrastructure using API. Now, by having this, we enable companies, we enable organizations to have faster investigations and to also rely on the existing response infrastructure for automated response. Now, I know this is quite a heavily worded slide if you're trying to read through it, but to summarize, Exeon UEBA will take the logs from all the entities. It will transform these logs in a privacy by design pipeline. It will analyze them in real time and at scale, and then make all the results, make all the alerts actionable in your tools as well as your workflows that are already in use. Now, I'd like to just dive a little bit deeper and discuss how we go from ingesting these logs to actually detecting the threat. Now, I'll go again from the left going towards the right. I did mention we can ingest logs from multiple different sources. So these are identity relevant systems, for example, Entra ID, ACP, Active Directory, VPN, various access gateways, even zero trust components and any custom application. Now, the key point here is we are not relying on one log source. Instead, we are ingesting logs from multiple different sources. We're covering the cloud, on-prem, as well as custom environments, hence targeting to eliminate any blind spots that attackers might typically try to exploit. Now, in the center here, we have how Exeon UEBA applies these built-in expert models. We're doing continuous behavioral learning, as well as Sigma-based detection logic. Now, instead of having static thresholds, Exeon UEBA will learn what normal looks like for each user, what normal behavior looks like for each service account, for each application, and it will adapt over time. Now, what comes out of this first analysis layer are the behavioral signals. These are not the final alerts, no, these are just signals of the behavior that has been observed by Exeon UEBA across your environment. And examples would include what you can see on the screen, such as unusual login time, new or unrecognized devices, changes in daily routines for a specific user, or even impossible travel scenarios. Now, all of these signals, if you look at them individually, they might look harmless. But if you start to look at them together, then they start to tell a story. For example, a story could be a user is logging in at an unusual time. They are using an unrecognized device and they're uploading quite a huge chunk of data to an external server. So what we're doing is we are aggregating this suspicious behavior, which is like connecting the dots so as to provide the big picture of what is happening within the customer environment. And that's where Exeon UEBA's strength really starts to show. So instead of flooding analysts with single suspicious events, the solution will aggregate all these related behaviors across time. We'll aggregate these related behaviors across entities, across systems, in order to identify the threats. Now, on the right, you can see the true threats that can be identified by our solution. This would include malicious insider activity, cases of stolen credentials, which Luca mentioned as one of the main sources of attacks, misuse of admin accounts, abnormal API usage, as well as unauthorized access to OT systems, which is another vertical that we heavily focus on. Now, all the detections that we do have are high confidence detections. They have been backed by behavioral evidence, and it's not just one suspicious event. So that's how we shift detection from isolated events. We aggregate this and we apply behavioral analytics over time and at scale and in real time. Now that we have gone through how we can transform logs and detect the threats from the logs that are ingested into the solution, I would like quickly to explore the architecture that makes this possible. Now, again, everything does start with the data. So if you look from the left-hand side, you can see we are collecting data from different sources, from users, from entities, from different applications. For example, Microsoft services, SAP, Okta, Active Directory, etc. Now, all these logs will flow into our log collection and transformation framework, whose main sole purpose is to standardize the format so they can be understood by the detection engine. Now, we also have direct ingestion from log sources by using our common information model. Now, some customers will already have log collection framework. Maybe they have Cribble, which can also be used as a source by Exeon UEBA. So we meet the customer where they are from a log ingestion point of view. Now, before any analysis begins, again, we have the privacy layer, as you can see on the screen here, where we have the sensitive information being partially encrypted, which ensures, again, compliance with GDPR, which ensures that the data sovereignty is maintained directly from the very first step. Then we have the detection engine. Now, here is where we're performing real-time behavioral analytics, while in parallel, we are indexing all the different events inside the data lake for further investigation, for threat hunting, as well as auditing if need be. Now, finally, analysts can log into their graphical user interface. They can understand the correlated behavioral patterns. They can look into the alerts, and they can also work towards feeding those alerts into their response infrastructure, such as the SIEM solution, their source solution, or if they have an IAM gateway as well. Now, the key takeaway here is our architecture is first and foremost agentless. You do not need to install any agents within your environment in order to have this up and running. Second, it is privacy first, as we are partially encrypting the privacy-related fields before applying our analytics on the customer data, which helps to maintain the data sovereignty and gives customers behavioral visibility without adding any additional complexity. So we will dive into the graphical user interface in just a few minutes. But before we do that, I would like to quickly introduce to you the first screen that we will see. Now, at the top here, we do have the anomalies timeline, which will show you the anomaly trends over the last 10 days. And we categorize this by severity. Is it high? Is it medium? Is it low? Additionally, we have the anomaly count by the use case. That is the use case distribution, which will break down the anomalies by the behavioral use cases, helping analysts to understand why the anomalies are triggered in the first place. And then we have the highest risks elements, which are the highest risk users, applications, as well as the devices, which helps to prioritize. So you can prioritize against the users to understand which are the users that have the highest number of anomalies based on the severity. You can categorize by looking at the different applications that are the highest risk applications, as well as the highest risk devices within your network. Now, finally, at the bottom here, we have the latest 10 anomalies, which just displays the most recent detected anomalies so as to support real-time investigations. And it plays a key role in pivoting from an anomaly to the details of these anomalies and even to open search. But we will dive deeper into this specific page when we go into the short demo that I have prepared for you at the end of this presentation. Now, I did talk very briefly about the CIM, that is the Common Information Model for Log Data Ingestion. I'd like to spend just 30 seconds diving a little bit deeper into it. Now, in order to ensure that the logs can be effectively analyzed by the UEBA engine, they must be ingested in a standardized and supported format. And that is where the CIM for log ingestion comes into play. So this log data should be provided to the Exeon UEBA engine or the Exeon UEBA deployment as a TCP-based JSON string or via HTTPS REST API. Now that is in accordance with the Exeon CIM specification. Alternatively, there is an option to have a custom collector developed. Now, this will require representative log data samples so as to understand the log fields from the source systems in order to have proper parsing as well as normalization of these logs from the customer environment. Now, the key point here is we can work with multiple log sources. We just need to transform these logs into an understandable and standardized format using the Common Information Model before they are passed into the Exeon UEBA engine. Now, here's an overview of the infrastructure requirements for the UEBA platform to run effectively in a customer environment. And the sizing that we recommend is based on the daily log ingestion volumes and is also helped to estimate the compute as well as the memory and the storage that are required in order to have a good running deployment. Now, for the small deployment, you can see here that the platform can support up to 500 logs per second which is roughly about 50 million logs per day. And for such kind of environment, that is a small deployment, we would require the customer to have 6 CPU, 48 gig of RAM, as well as 300 gig of disk. Now, for medium deployment, this supports up to 5,000 logs per second, or approximately 500 million logs per day. And this would require almost double what we see with a small deployment, ideally 12 CPU, 64 gig of RAM, as well as 500 gig of disk. Now, for the large deployment, the platform again can handle up to 10,000 logs per second, which is equivalent to about 1 billion logs per day. And this would require 20 CPU, 128 gig of RAM, as well as 1 terabyte of disk. Ideally, if you have anything that deviates from this, we would be willing to have a discussion and see how much resource you would need to allocate for your UEBA deployment during the installation step. Now, to quickly sum up what we have been discussing before we dive into the demo, I'd like to just talk about how Exeon UEBA helps to close the identity gap by giving full visibility, by providing fast detection, and being a solution that is easy to scale. Now, it covers all users, it covers different applications, be it cloud, be it on-prem. You can ingest logs from API, and it can even work across multiple environments. Now, the threats are detected in real time, which use behavioral analytics, and we have the built-in security expertise. And the solution itself can scale smoothly, which essentially allows a step-by-step rollout while handling this large volumes of data that we experience in our customer environments. Now, additionally, privacy is inbuilt by design. Data sovereignty is taken very seriously with this solution, and compliance is at the heart of it, with requirements such as GDPR, NIS2, as well as DORA taken into consideration. Now, the question that we have been receiving since we started talking about the solution that our team has built is, how do we license Exeon UEBA? And rightfully so, because with solutions, licensing is a discussion which always comes up. And we use the same licensing structure as our NDR solution, almost the same as our NDR solution. So we do offer it as a subscription license. We have one base license, all features included. And the pricing is based on the number of users or the entities that are being monitored. That is also the number of integrated log data sources. So with this, you can have access to all the Exeon UEBA features, all the capabilities that we will now see in the demo. And you can also start making use of it. So our licensing is very simple, very easy to understand, no hoops to jump over, but quite easy to also ingest. Now, if you'd allow me, I'd like to quickly stop sharing my presentation at this time and jump into the demo. Now, I hope you can still see my screen as I am now sharing my browser where I have the demo already running. So let's assume that your organization has deployed Exeon UEBA and you're ingesting logs from multiple sources. Maybe you've incorporated Entra ID, SAP, custom business application. Now, the SOC analyst is a primary user of this, the dashboard itself. And one of the goals is to quickly get a high-level view of what's happening within the environment, to quickly identify what is Exeon UEBA seeing, what are the most vulnerable elements, who are the most vulnerable users, etc., as well as to investigate the anomalies of interest. And that's exactly what we offer with the first screen, that is a dashboard. Now, Just follow me from top down. Here we have the anomalies timeline. With the anomalies timeline, we can understand the trend and the severity over time. Here we can see we do have some anomalies categorized as high. We do have some anomalies categorized as medium. We can have anomalies categorized as low. So an analyst can know what to really focus on based on the anomalies that have been detected over the last 10 days. In addition to this, there is the anomaly count by use case, which again aims to provide the information of why these anomalies are generated in the first place, which use cases have been triggered from the log data that has been ingested. In this case, you can see the colored pie chart here, which is showing you the distribution of the anomalies by the use case. Now, I did mention that we also categorize the highest risk elements based on the highest risk users, the highest risk applications, and the highest risks devices right here. And at the bottom here, we have the latest 10 anomalies tabulated for real-time investigation as well as response. Now, the value of this is, in this one page, you can quickly move from a quick overview and pivot towards prioritization of the events and the different investigation workflows that need to be done without having to switch between different tools. Now, that is just a brief of the dashboard. Now, the second tab that we have on the navigation pane is the anomalies tab, as you can see right here. Now, here we have all the different anomalies listed out in a table format, and you can expand to just have a view of all the anomalies based on the specific time range that has been specified by an analyst. Now, as an analyst, I can quickly filter out the anomalies by the status to see, is it confirmed? Is it open? Has this anomaly been resolved by my colleague, for example? Is it still under investigation, or has it been whitelisted so as to reduce the noise that we have within the system? So we can filter out by status. We can also filter out by the severity. Is it categorized as low, medium, or even high? We can search by the application. We can filter out by the different use cases. Now here we can see multiple different use cases, both the built-in use cases, behavioral use cases, and also custom use cases can be added here. To quickly filter this, all you need to do is just select that and the filter is applied. You can invert the selection as well and see what this does, which selects all the others that had not been previously selected. Now, you can also search by the user. You can search by the device. You can filter out by the stage. Is it finished or is it ongoing? And we do have the capability to filter out by a specific time range. Now, I'll just quickly create one filter based on maybe severity. Say here, select high severity. We can see the anomalies that have been specified. And once you select on the specific anomaly of interest, the investigation and taking of action can begin right on this page. You can choose to quickly investigate, confirm, resolve, as well as set to open, or even whitelist this for a specific period of time. Now, in this case, if I'd like to whitelist this for 30 days, all I have to do is just create a whitelist out of this. We have a pre-filled pop-up where it specifies the specific devices, the use case that has been created. You can leave a comment, in this case, test, create a whitelist, and that will be immediately whitelisted and added to your whitelist table, where you can see the summary of all the whitelisted anomalies. You can see all the whitelisted use cases as well. Now, next, I would like to focus on two elements that are present in the navigation pane. That is the users and the devices. Now, with the users and the devices, we are shifting the investigation from alerts to entity-based. Now we're looking at our users, we're looking at our devices, which helps to understand the behavior in more context. Now, specifically here, you can filter out by a user. In this case, I'll just search for a user admin, and we do have admin 1. And once we select the user of interest, at the bottom here, we have a lot of information to work with. For example, the anomaly severity of the specific user. In this case, we have low, and we can inspect this further in OpenSearch. We can look at the logs, we can look at the resource activity, as well as the authentication activity for this specific user. We can also see the pie chart, the use case distribution, which use case and why has this triggered on this user, the anomaly timeline for the specific user, the recent logins, where we have the source device, the country they're logging in from, the different application that they're logging, as well as the destination device, even the failed login with the reason why this has actually failed. Now, from here, we can also look at the anomalies in detail over the last 30 days and even pivot directly into OpenSearch. So if we'd like to further investigate this specific anomaly, we can inspect it in OpenSearch. Now, if you'd allow me, I'll pivot very briefly from the GUI into OpenSearch to show you an outlook of OpenSearch. So by clicking on Inspect Anomaly right there, you can quickly look at the different handlings of the anomaly themselves. You can see a quick summary, that is the successful login with a username that's containing admin, and you can now quickly pivot into OpenSearch. This will open a new tab, and you will go into the data lake where you expect to see that the filter has been already applied for this specific user, for this specific anomaly. As you can remember, we were investigating the user admin 1 right here. We can see the timeline. We can even start looking at the different fields that are present in the log data that is coming in. In this case, we're looking at the application SSH. We're looking at this user admin 1. We have even additional information such as ID. We can see, is it during the weekday or is it a weekend that is specified by the time range, as well as the severity. So we have linked these two so as to provide security analysts with the ability to dive deeper into the data lake to understand why this specific anomaly has been triggered in the first place, to carry out some form of further investigation, as well as auditing if need be. Now, going back into the Exeon UEBA graphical user interface, where we have looked at this one specific anomaly, I'd like to quickly look at the devices right here. And I'll search by one device. I think we had the 172.16.1.80 device, that is the IP. And we can again see the anomaly severity and the device inspection. We can see the use case to understand why this has triggered for this specific device, the timeline over the last 10 days, what are the recent logins? In this case, our demo data does not have this information, but we have already seen this in the previous use case that we have explored. And again, you can also inspect this anomaly further, have the handlings, and dive into OpenSearch if need be. And that is why I started off by saying that the users and devices will shift the investigation from alerts to an entity-based view, which allows you to understand the behavior of users and devices within your network based on the log data that you are ingesting. Now, here we just have two more things that we need to look at. First is the whitelist. As you remember, we did create a whitelist when we were looking at the anomaly page, and here it is. It is currently active. We have the timeline defined from to, which I think was 3 months in our case. We have the description of the use case that we have already defined here, and we can see who has done it. So to create a whitelist, you can just quickly create it on this whitelist page, or you could create it on the fly from the anomalies page. So here you can even set up a custom whitelist, that is, if there's a project that is running within your network for a specified period of time and you do not want the alerts firing up, then you could quickly do this and have it already defined and visible in the whitelist page. Now, finally, at the bottom here, we have the log filters. Now, this log filter page allows analysts to create as well as manage exclusions. Let me just quickly click on this. So here, this will prevent specific logs from being processed or even from generating anomalies. Ideally, this can reduce the noise. A use case can be, you have users who are working along the border, say they're working between Switzerland and Germany, and they're constantly traveling between these two countries. Now, if you have a use case like impossible travel firing up, then we can set up a log exclusion where these specific events are excluded from anomalies and they do not generate any alerts. So all we have to do is just define the specific use case. We have all the use cases here to select from the application. You can set up a log filter to include or exclude specific users, specific hosts, specific country codes. In this case, maybe CH for Switzerland, can be DE for Germany. You can specify destination host, exclude or include them. You can, specify the destination ISO country codes, different URIs tags, and also have a summary of maybe a user or device alerts. Finally, just leave a comment so the next analyst can understand why this log filter has been created in the first place. Now, finally, of course, we do have the admin panel where you can view the deployment information. Do you have the current release that is running, or have you just done an upgrade? If you've done an upgrade, all you need to check is the version, both the front end and the back end. Cross-check this across our updated documentation to make sure that you have the latest running version. We have the heartbeat where we can see in real time which specific use cases are operational. What is the uptime of these specific use cases? What is what number of logs are we processing as well per use case? Now, in this case, we can see the different use cases here. For example, these are by user use cases, that is access to many resources, login from new devices by a user, login at unusual time by user. We also have by device use case. For example, this access to specific resources by device, and that is the form of naming nomenclature that we do use when we are naming our use cases so as to differentiate them. Additionally, an admin, of course, will have the capability to delete specific anomalies distributed by use case or even by applications for a specific time range. And if you just like to jump into OpenSearch directly from the graphical user interface, we do have the option to jump into OpenSearch directly from the navigation pane right here. And this brings me to the end of the very short demo. But if you would like to dive deeper into the demo, as Luca did mention, you can reach out to our team. You can definitely reach out to Sandra, who will be in contact with the pre-sales team, so we can provide a detailed demo as well as a POC if this is something that is of interest to you, or if you would like to test out the solution using your own log data to understand what will fire up and to investigate this further so as to adopt a more structured, cost-effective, as well as accurate and faster detection system within your security operations center. Now, I would like to quickly again hand over to Luca so as to close the
webinar.
The webinar is only rightfully so because you are the one who opened it. So
Okay.
I'll just quickly share
Thanks,
my. Just give me a second right here. Oh, there you go. Over to you, Luca.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Thanks a lot even for the live demo. So we tried within this 50 minutes to show you what kind of security challenges we address with our new product Exeon UEBA, how it works, where are the benefits, and especially what kind of challenges we address within the companies. So I hope that we could wake up your interest. So if you have further questions, please use the chat within this webinar, or please contact our partner and distributor CyberDisti afterwards, or my colleague Sandra. As already mentioned, we have recorded this session. We are going to share the link for the recorded session. We're going to distribute the slides, and I hope we will keep in touch with you. So I would hand over to Sohaib.
Yeah. So team, any questions? Anyone? Please feel free to put in the question answers chat box. See someone typing hi. Please type your question.
Just see that somebody's typing.
All right. I have already attached the phone number and all. You can contact us for the dedicated session, and we can have a sales pitch and technical session as well on that.
Great. So we'll contact Ramadavan concerning his request. Yes.
Yes.
Good. Any further questions or comments?
Anyone? Any questions? Please feel free to contact us if you all want to see a demo or, along with the console presentation and more explanation about the product. We are here to assist you. There is one question actually. What about the local data residency by Anil Joseph?
So I just did not understand the question. What was it?
What about the local data residency?
Yeah. So what the Exeon UEBA is a software appliance. Then customer can decide where it's going to install. So on-prem, private cloud, data center, whatever it is. Our promise: no data will leave this VM appliance. So it's in full control of the end customer, full data sovereignty. And typically we store the data for 1 year, but it can be adapted. The only cause what you then need to provide is an additional storage. I hope I could answer this.
All right.
These questions.
Yes. Yes. Anyone? Any questions? So he's asking about, so can we say it as per UA regulations, Anil Joseph?
Yes, because you have the control over the data. So you can really point out or address the regulations you have in your region, and we give full flexibility for it.
Anyone else? Anything you can ask? It's fine. All right, then I think you can wind up the webinar. And in the chat box, I have mentioned the phone numbers of our CyberDisti Middle East. So you can contact us for a dedicated session on Exeon sales or technical, whatever it is. So we can, help you out with the opportunities, and let's work together to close some deals as well. So thank you all for joining today, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Do
Thank you, Anne, and
stay
thank you.
safe. Yeah. Have a nice
Take
Thursday.
care,
Bye bye.
everyone. Bye.
Take it.